Hey everybody, welcome to this week's coaching call. Today we're going to be talking about kind of a handful of related things, a little more mindset based, but exactly where the mindset works in conjunction with the action that we take to to make improvements towards achieving our goals. So come along for the ride with me on this one because I think I'm probably setting this up kind of in an interesting way. And I'm going to try to apply as much of this to some very real life situations that that most of us go through or will have gone through. And essentially, always going back to what would this look like if it was easy? What would it, where are the simple aspects? Where's the simplicity here? Um, because we talk about things like, morning routines or evening routines and making sure that we're creating simplicity for the reason to have routines like that in place. A morning routine is to get our day going. An evening routine is to wind our day down, right? So we need to think about what what activations we're putting in place in each of those periods to do those things, start our day or end our day well. Um, the starting our day well, we need to think about, the purpose of getting the day going. What is that purpose? The purpose is to do what needs to be done during the day. Some of which absolutely needs to go towards our vision, our health vision, and essentially like our total vision as well. Um, there is so we're going to be leaning in today a bit more on when to lean in and sell yourself on something about, your process and essentially commit to it versus when to like pull back and work a different angle of things so that you are building the momentum, building the consistency for achieving your goals, achieving your vision. There is a three-step process that I take my one-to-one clients through. And it's very simply freedom, food, and fitness. Now, we can work on food related stuff and we can work on fitness related stuff at the same time that we are working on the freedom aspect. And the freedom aspect comes through the vision building. In the things that we are doing within that process to make the food and the fitness side of the equation simpler. Um, when we think about what we're building here with the vision building process, we are taking and imagining out the details of an experience, an event, or a feeling that we want to have experience, event, or emotion. Think of it as three E's. You're going to hit at least one of them, right? At least one of them is the purpose of your vision story. Then we take and create a mindset process daily and for the quarter as well through our anchor statement, through our inspiration statements, through our action steps. so that we've created the vision and then a portion of the process. That lets us expand our processes, our systems to include what needs to happen on the food side of the equation and the fitness side of the equation in order to move us towards our vision. So if we're not including all three of those things, the freedom, that is our vision building process, the food and the fitness, how are we moving to our end vision, really? And essentially the freedoms that are within our vision story that we're aiming to create. We're creating a vision, we're creating a process. Then we need to be able to commit to the process. And this is where we need to determine when we're leaning in on certain things and when we're pulling back. We should even if there's some degree of resistance, we should be able to, through revisiting our vision story, like at least weekly, if not, more frequently, we should be able to easily sell ourselves on the vision enough to be able to commit to the more mundane aspects of the process. If you are experiencing a lot of resistance around a part of the process, that's the point where we need to pull back and take a look at where is that resistance coming from? Is it coming from um, a a fear of something? Whether we feel like we might be lacking something, like lacking time, lacking resources, the energy or the money to do something, lacking knowledge. Is there a lack-based resistance to this part of the process? Whatever part that might be, the food related stuff or the fitness related stuff. Um, is it a an attachment related block? I have to um I have to be able to get this vision. Have to. Sometimes that might come from having made your vision so lofty that it feels like it can't be accomplished in the time in which you've set out. For example, if I want to lose, okay, let's actually pull out the calculator here and pull out the calendar. How many weeks do we have till the end of the year? There are exactly, from today, 21 weeks until the end of the year. Let's say that I have a 50-pound weight loss goal. I would need to absolutely put myself in a position with my food and my fitness, potentially with other things like medication, to lose more than 2 pounds a week on average through the end of the year to achieve that weight loss goal. And we know me, I want that weight loss goal to be a fat loss as well. Um, and technically, based on my pre-endometriosis diagnosis, average weight, a 50-pound weight loss goal is realistic for me and would still be considered putting me in a very healthy weight range. But I'd need to lose almost 2.5 pounds a week for sure across the rest of the year to reach that goal. Now, had I had that specific weight loss goal at the front end of the year, a whole 52 weeks seems less daunting, right? If I were to have put that number in my vision story, what do we think my most significant resistance point might be? What do we think the language I might use up here that might get in my way would look like? It might look like things like, oh, I can't possibly do that the whole time. 21 weeks isn't enough for that. Not to do it healthy. There's probably a healthy way to go about doing it. That's still that's plenty of time to genuinely lose 50 pounds in a healthy way. But it is kind of on that border where, yes, on the front end, there's probably inflammation-based weight that I'm carrying that would probably be able to drop off quickly. But that's likely only up to 10 pounds of what I currently weigh. I'd be surprised if I'm actually carrying more than 10 pounds of weight that could be readily explained by inflammation. The rest of it's absolutely body fat. Um, where I'm going with this, if we have attached ourselves very hard to the direct outcome, yes, we want our vision story to produce excitement. We want it to be challenging enough that we do kind of have the question of how are we going to get this done? And the how starts with some of those action steps that we put in place first. But if we've attached ourselves so hard to the outcome that we are creating um, strong resistance to part of the process, then we need to work on the detachment side of things. So we have a fear of lack. We have a fear that's rooted in attachment. Then there's also fear in the um, in the realm of doing. And sometimes the doing um, coincides with either the attachment or the lack. So doing looks a lot like us telling ourselves, I have to have control of every part of the process. I'm the only one who can do all the things. When we want to next level our health, we need to be able to confront what our resistance points are and identify them for what they are and why we think or feel like we need whatever it is those resistance points are telling us we need. There is a let go aspect in this part of the process that helps us create more freedom to move, to take action. You've heard that something is better than nothing. And each of these kinds of points of resistance and where they're coming from, whether it's the control aspect of our ego or the attachment or a lack, a fear of lack or a lack energy that we're creating, each and every one of those resistance points binds us up and saps our freedom. And the direct fix for that is doing something anyway. Because doing something anyway starts providing us with the evidence that we survive, that doing a thing didn't kill us. Because ultimately, that's what our brains are trying to do when we're presenting with resistance points. Our brains are trying to keep us safe. We have the certainty of what those resistance points show us. That those resistance points are our brain finding evidence of the safety of our situation. One of the things that I've heard from most people I've spoken with who have lost a substantial amount of weight was that there was an aspect of fear throughout the whole time that they were losing weight because they hadn't been that new lower weight for so long. They didn't know who they were. And that's one of the reasons why, and I would encourage you to go back to our identity month. I'm trying to remember when we had that month um, worth of coaching because it's we need to be able to identify with who we are in that vision right now in order to help us bust through those resistance points and bust through the uncertainty that those resistance points feel threatened by. Our vision story provides us with the certainty when we lean into it. And again, you can adjust your vision story throughout this quarter. If there is a point in your vision story that starts producing some resistance for you when you're hearing it or when you're reading it, ask yourself where the resistance is coming from. Lack, attachment, control. One of those three. Lack, attachment, control. Do we have a resistance point coming from one of those things? Because the answer is it's going to be within one of those things. We don't have control over when something will happen for us directly. For example, our vision story. But if we're positioning ourselves up here with our vision story is happening for us, our vision is happening by us, our vision is happening through us, through the effort we put in, through our patience with the process, through our commitment to the process. The ultimate result can only be we'll have done what we could to make that happen. So that's what I'm trying to encourage here with when we're experiencing a resistance point, pulling back to, sorry, coffee burp, um, to work a different angle. Again, kind of studying what's going on. Breathing to put our bodies back into kind of that parasympathetic response so that we're not feeling fight or flight about it. And we talked about that with, breath work for helping with like putting our bodies into a state where sleep should come a little easier. Um, if a resistance point seems to be fairly mild, then we might be able to just lean in and do something imperfectly with ease, enough to the point where we should be able to build consistency. But again, if the resistance point is so very strong, we need to be able to talk to ourselves about where it's coming from and what a fix might be. So let me give an example from each of the major like lack points because lack is often, like lack energy is often a very big place where resistance points can come up. Lacking time, lacking resources, lacking knowledge, lack of time. Um, and resources and energy. Let's talk about the busy schedule. If you feel like you're lacking time and energy because you have a busy schedule, um, or financial, like you would not be able to order certain supplements that you want to be able to order so they're supporting your body processes, for example. If you're sitting in that lack mindset on it, then there is a reprioritization of some things that can be done through potentially delegating certain things. For example, maybe somebody else is doing the cooking and you want the cooking to be more in line with your health goals. Um, there can either be a request from you for a change in the cooking, or you can take and manually prepare, within 30 minutes to an hour, once a week even, some things that you can have on standby so that so like cut veggies or cut fruit or something like that to add more, vitamins, minerals, fiber into your diet and be able to put some of those on your plate along with whatever it is that's being cooked as the main like family meal. And you're just adjusting your portion of the main family meal if it's not wholly in line with like what it is your goals are. So those two different potential solutions right there on um, a like a lack of time related thing. No, not a lack of time related thing. Um, the control, the control side. Um, if you are lacking in time or energy based on a busy schedule, then it might be time to look at, do you need all of those things in your schedule? And yes, I know as parents, you want to enrich your children's lives with different things. You want to make sure that your children have a lot of autonomy so that they're learning different skills, whether those are manual skills or relational skills or other, emotional or mental skills. Um, but you also need to be able to set aside time for your particular health related goals. Because if you don't, eventually your children's schedule is kind of running yours. And you haven't necessarily left yourself with that many options on how you're handling your health related goals. So, for example, um, this might be where you get in a workout when your uh, your support team can have your kids for a bit instead of doing chores. Because we know the chores are always going to be there. There's always going to be a cycling of certain chores. You can do a workout alongside of certain chores as well. Um, so, for example, folding laundry. For everything you're folding, maybe you're doing squats. For every 5 shirts that get folded or hung up on hangers, maybe you're doing a set of push-ups. And by set, I don't necessarily mean like a full set of 8 to 12 or so repetitions. Maybe it's five shirts folded and put away or hung up and put away. Um, and you're doing 5 push-ups per shirt, you know, by way of example. Um, or you could put a timer on the chores and do them as quickly as possible and then get in a workout. Or delegate certain chores to family members who can do those chores and get in a workout. It's all just examples of pivots that can be made. And yes, I realize I'm talking to parents of young children here. So I know one of the potential resistance points is my kids won't let me do that. There are adjustments that need to be made if you want to put the success of your health goals back into the equation. So I want you to think from the imperfect action standpoint. Imperfect action doesn't mean get a thing done perfectly. Imperfect action means understanding you might not do the thing exactly the way you want to do, but you're doing it anyway to the best of what you can do right then. Because again, that provides you with the evidence that you can do the thing. I want to round this all back out to that three-step process again I do for my clients. Again, it's freedom, food, fitness. And you can work imperfectly within the food and the fitness as you're building out the freedom aspect, where you simply feel better and better and better about your ability to do things because you are actively being the person at the end of that vision story. We don't have a thing by doing and then we become that person. We have to embody that person first in order to more effectively do the things, in order to have what it is we want. Be, do, have in that order. So it comes back to asking ourselves, what do I want today? Who do I want to be today? Who do I need to be today? What things do I need to consider? How do I want to show up? Because when we're doing all of those things, when we're asking ourselves those questions, we are making our brains provide an answer for each of those things. And they can all be the same basic answer. Most importantly, we're essentially revisiting who we are in that vision, how we've imagined who we are. And we're stepping into it in that time. It's one of the reasons why I do recommend making the journaling part of your morning routine, even if it's for just a few minutes, asking yourself those questions. Who do I want to be? Who do I need to be? What do I need to consider? How do I want to show up? And getting something on your action steps list done. So we're making the reality of our vision happen right now so that we do see it sooner rather than later. I will have the the vision work we did last week um, up and loaded the uh, into our group ASAP. I've just found where it is on the computer that I had the video from the first bit stored and have gotten that loaded onto YouTube. And now I need to do the same with the laptop since I had switched over there. But I'll have that up, I'll have that ready, and then I'm going to be in touch with each of you to essentially schedule a short session for us to sit down individually and work on your vision. I will catch you guys later on. Have a good one.